Now we can see iPad.
Yeah. So this is the tool. This has been developed in Unity. It works on WebGL, and there are two roles basically. One is the admin role, who can just add all these suppliers. So if I'm a supplier of the client, I'll just raise a request to the admin saying that I need the access to that tool, and
Hello, Diktanshu, are you there?
yes, I'm there.
Yeah,
Right.
we lost the. Yeah, maybe you're logging in that we were not speaking, but we could not figure it.
Yeah. So I hope this is visible. So this is the tool, how it looks like, and the planner has to start their day by uploading a text file, uh, which has all the information about the assets that they will be planning. So let me quickly find a dummy text file. So as the text file uploads, it creates all the required dependencies and relationships with suppliers, the assets, what kind of containers are supported, etc. And once that is done, the supplier can create a pattern. So this is the pattern that I was talking about, like a small pattern that can be reused by the Oracle's tool to create the bigger container. So let me select an supplier. So this is basically a supplier ID that you see here. So um, I have to be, have a contract with that supplier if I'm a planner. So, and then this is the container size. So this is basically the size of the truck or the ship or whatever container that I choose. There are some default options. I can modify them anyway. And yeah, there you go. So I have a 3D environment where I have an empty container, uh, and the idea is to add the items that I would provide this client. For example, say this is a mattress. So let me say that I want two mattresses and one this thing something, and so these are the two boxes. So these are those packed units that needs to be placed in the container. And even though I'm using the entire container to place these things, actually what I'm doing is a pattern. For example, whenever I ship something which has these kind of setup, so two of these green boxes, light green boxes, and one this green boxes, I'll use that same pattern to pack that. So that means if there are four such boxes and two such boxes, it will use the same pattern, and uh, place it just like a Lego brick. But that's part of the other tool there, the Oracle tool. So I'll just say that, I want to move this, so I have some handles which I can use to place these boxes anywhere. There are some additional, helpers. For example, you see these dots here. So these are what we call snap points. So this can make the work pretty fast. For example, I can very quickly position these boxes like this, right? And it has all kind of things like gravity and collision detection. So if I take this box here and move it around here and just drop it, I can see those, it falls on top of the other one. I can see all the details here. So that makes the job for the supplier very easy, because they can not only see that how the pattern would look, they can also zoom in, They can rotate the cameras, they can focus on some items by pressing some keyboard shortcuts. And this is just like a 3D environment like you get in 3D Max or Maya or Blender or something. So that way they can actually see what is the position, whether it's rotated or not. You can rotate these things, you can place, and instead of the tool doing it for you, you can make this make the Oracle tool learn these patterns, and then whenever it gets the same kind of pattern, it will try to position them in this particular orientation, right? And if it doesn't find, able to find that thing, if that's already occupied, it will take the next best position. And it knows how to, reserve space, how to make the most of the space. But then all it needs is this kind of small patterns to, actually help them uh, work. And that way, and you get all the necessary information, and you can save these patterns. So you can save these patterns. If you have already created a pattern and just want a variation of that, you can save as that with some other pattern. For example, say I want a variation like this, or maybe on top like that. If you place something outside of the container, it will show you a hint with red outline saying that this is outside. So that was the whole objective, to make this work. That was taking days to, in communication back and forth, and again then you plan for something, and then that comes out completely different when the plan is printed. So that basically just goes away with this kind of 3D visualization. And once you're happy with that, you can export that either in separately or in bulk. So I can select all of these. These are the two patterns, right, that I created just now. So I can just export them. It will export in the file format that is understood by the tool that the client is using as its main tool, the Oracle tool that I was talking about. And if I just click here, you'll see that it has all the necessary information that is needed by the tool. So this is like a seamless integration. There is no a very heavy integration project going on. It's working with text-based documents, but it works. It takes the minimum amount of effort to integrate this, but it works on file formats. And as you see, so these are formats that are understood by the tool. Yeah. And then there are some cool features. For example, you can snap to increments. You can that if you want to move these boxes by a specific amount, you can do that like that. So if you really want to precisely place these things, for example, there were also some cases where you want to have a specific space between two things. They call it dunnage. So if you want to have, for example, 500 millimeters gap between two assets, you can just move it like this, right?
That would be to minimize friction and few other things that you were talking, right?
Right. Yeah. So that's it.
So, Suvarna, now we have seen the tool. We see the current functionality of it.
Yeah.
Now, to make it, in the presentation format, the way that we generally present it, considering, fluidity of across sectors, across domains, how this story is going to be, shared. Now that this is ready and cross application and all the other functionality is going to go on top of it. What do you have in mind in terms of its enhancement as far as narrative is concerned? Because phase 2 is written here in the document, right?
Hold. Yes.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. I'm cutting your sentence short. The simple answer is that this is a situation or a scenario for a particular multi-item kind of a large store where things are moving in a particular way that helps the store and probably helps them also stack it properly once it reaches the store. Now, if I have to make this narrative to a certain extent specific. When I say specific, meaning we do the presentation saying the scenario is where there are multiple items in a large store, and when it comes from the warehouse on into the store, it has to the items have to move in a certain way, and this particular solution ipat, which has been created using 3D Unity, will help you already get instructions or already make things happen the way it is best suited. That is the first part of the narrative. The second part of narrative is that when this kind of a scenario happens in any other sector, this sector plus any other sector, like a typical manufacturing shop floor, where